I'd like to welcome everybody to the Thursday, January 12th, 2023 special meeting of the Sierra Madre City Council. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir, thank you. Mayor Edward Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Kelly Krebs.
Present.
Councilmember Jean Goss.
Here.
Councilmember Christine Lowe.
Present.
And Councilmember Robert Parkhurst.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum this evening.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. If I could have Mayor Pro Tem Krebs lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise if you're able. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I will happily defer my inspiration to the next meeting if you don't mind.
I don't mind. Thank you. Can we get a motion to approve the special meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Mr. City Attorney, could you give us a report out from the closed session?
Mayor, the City Council met in closed session today regarding anticipated litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9 Subdivision B. No reportable action was taken.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. I know we just met two days ago. Do we have any mayor and council reports from council members? No, we'll keep it short. Just quick report regarding the accident at Auburn and the Boulevard at the only place in town. I did head down there with the city manager and the deputy city attorney. There wasn't any serious injuries, thankfully. The K-rails actually, I think the fact that we have this program stopped that car from actually going into the dining room. So thank God that there weren't any major injuries or damage to the only place in town. That's all I have. Okay, so I'd like to open up into public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have any cards, Madam City Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, we don't, as this is a special meeting, we don't.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get into it. Discussion items. Discussion item number one is a consideration of an appointment to fill the unexpected vacancy on the Planning Commission.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, the City Council met on Tuesday to appoint a candidate to fill the seat for outgoing Commissioner Bob Spears. Commissioner Simcock has been appointed and is was effective immediately at that meeting. The City Council also appointed Young Yu to fill the vacancy that is expected July 1st for John Hutt. Since that meeting, the city has received a resignation letter from Commissioner Dallas resigning from the Planning Commission for personal health reasons. And so the city staff is asking that the City Council amend the term for Young Yu so that his term begins immediately to fill the vacancy, the unexpected vacancy for Commissioner Dallas. The city staff is also asking the City Council to consider any of the other remaining applicants for the July 1st term to fill the vacancy that Commissioner Hutt will leave once he terms out. If the City Council wishes, they have an alternative to have city staff continue recruitment for the position that will be vacant on July 1st. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Questions? No questions.
One question comes to mind. Could we, if we're appointing another person tonight, could we put that person in the current term that starts immediately? And leave Mr. Yu for the term that begins in July?
That is an option that's available to the City Council. If the mayor chooses to go that route, that is an option that's available.
I actually have a question. So because we extended Commissioner Spears' term an extra 6 months beyond what it would have typically
ended, what does that mean for example, Commissioner Simcock's term? Is it an extra 6 months or 6 months fewer?
Commissioner Simcock would be coming in, is coming in, or did come in as on a partial term, so he would Commissioner Simcock would complete his partial term and then be eligible for 2 full terms.
And the same would be true of anyone that takes Commissioner Dallas's spot as well.
That is correct. So anyone filling the seat for Commissioner Dallas would be coming in as a partial term and then would be eligible for 2 full terms after that.
So, but Commissioner Spears' term was only extended by 6 months, which ended at the end of December. So what is Commissioner Simcock's term then? When does it end?
So Commissioner Spears was serving a partial term that began on July 1st. And the term that Commissioner Simcock is seated in now began July 1st, but he filled it in, because he's filling it in late, the term is still July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2026.
Okay, so it's a 4-year term.
3.5
Even though,
years.
it was a 4-year term, starting July 1st of 2022. Commissioner Simcock does it 3.5 years.
Correct.
That's fine with
And
me.
then eligible for 2, Commissioner Simcock is then eligible for 2 full terms at that point.
Okay.
Any other questions? Look to open this up to public comment.
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment card from Robert Jurdy on this item.
No, I'll do the next item.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't sure. You wrote yes.
Okay, she was guessing. Thank you. Back to discussion. I'll start it off. I feel comfortable. We had 4 applications. It's my understanding that all 4 of them were anticipating being appointed immediately. So I think that if we could shift Young Yu up into the current appointment to fill Commissioner Dallas's spot, I think that would be the appropriate thing to do. Also, we had a polling of the council on Tuesday night, and I think there were at least 4 council members that recommended Dr. Christine Moran for that position. So I think the appropriate thing to do would be to appoint Christine Moran for the opening spot of John Hutt, which will open on July 1st, 2023. That's my 2 cents.
I would support that.
I agree with that. I
Support
agree.
that too.
Okay.
Do we need a motion then?
No,
No.
he gets to make the call.
Yeah, I'll make the call, but let's just affirm it. Let's just ceremonially affirm this, I think. We'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The record will reflect your selection.
Thank you. Item number 2, council discussion regarding the referendum to appeal ordinance 1461. Do we have any report?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a continuation of the discussion that occurred at the regular scheduled meeting on January 10th. Council can consider setting the date for the special election, consider repealing the ordinance, or setting the date for the regular scheduled election in November, or provide staff with additional direction.
Thank you, City Manager Reynoso. Council, any questions?
So has anything happened since the last city council meeting with regard to the referendum?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Parkhurst. Since the last meeting, I have met with the Protect Sierra Madre group and entered into negotiations to withdraw the referendum. Staff is asking City Council tonight, or I'm asking City Council tonight, to postpone setting a date for an election to give staff, to give me additional time to continue negotiations.
In your conversations with the proponents, did they understand that this comes at a potential significant cost to the city of $75,000 to $100,000?
Yes, they understand that.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about the status of those conversations and kind of how how those conversations went?
I can tell you that the meeting went really well. I feel optimistic that we can find middle ground and to support some of the items that they have. I'm optimistic that we will make significant progress, and I'm optimistic that we can withdraw the referendum and proceed and avoid the 50 unit development and loss of all the concessions that we have negotiated for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Parkhurst. Any other questions?
This would be for Laura. For city clerk, would any election, we need 88 days prior to when we would set the election? So, and that would be, so do we have a time limit on, or are we looking at a time limit? So we looked before only at April and June. So, but we can do any election date as long as we set it 88 days before, or we declare it 88 days before?
Or more?
Or more?
That is correct, Councilmember Lowe. If the city chooses to, if the city council wants to defer the decision to the next regular meeting, we won't be able to be eligible for the April 11th meeting. That would be at the reduced cost of $325,000. If the council chooses a different day in 2023, then it would be a standalone election and the city would bear the costs for the additional amount.
Do you know a slight estimate at all what that might be?
We don't have an official estimate from the county, but the county has indicated it would be closer to $400,000.
Questions? Mr. City Manager, was it your understanding that if we set the election for April 11th, which would be the cost-sharing date, the referendum the referendum won't get pulled under that date because it would have to be pulled by tomorrow? Was that the sense from the meeting?
That is correct. They felt that setting the date for tomorrow would not give them time to meet with their full committee to make that decision.
Thank you. Any other questions before we bring it to public comment? No? Okay, let's open this up to public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have some cards?
Yes, sir, we do. The first speaker is Deb Sheridan, followed by Howard Hayes.
Good evening, council members. Deb Sheridan, but I'm speaking for Ed Miller. My name is Ed Miller. I served for 5 years on the General Plan Steering Committee, meeting monthly in the City Council chambers, researching the code of other cities in our area, polling the citizens, conducting town hall meetings, neighborhood councils, readings of draft copies of the plan, and ultimately writing, editing, and producing the Sierra Madre General Plan. I am an engineer manager at JPL and have helped put spacecraft around the Earth, 3 on Mars, 1 on the asteroid Ceres, and 1 at Saturn. Others on the General Plan Steering Committee were architects, lawyers, and professionals in large corporations. Several of us went on to serve on the Planning Commission and the City Council. The overriding desire of the people we polled was the desire to preserve the small-town nature of Sierra Madre and to prevent high-density housing and mansionization. The general plan reflects careful consideration of how to preserve the character of our town. That remains a concern for a high percentage of the people of this town, and through your actions and those of New Urban West, it is obvious that you know it. Over 1,200 people signed the referendum in 30 days to resist the new development. 2,216 people voted yes on HR, and many of the people we talked to when campaigning said they'd already voted no, as they thought that meant voting against the development. This is not a handful of cranks. A significant fraction of Sierra Madre is opposed to this development. During the Measure HR campaign, you and New Urban West urged people to vote no on HR because you said HR would lead to more building and higher density. Why would you do that unless you knew that the people are against it? And now, with New Urban West's cynical threat to try to circumvent your approval by applying for an even larger development under SB 330, they again are using the threat of even higher density to make their Meadows plan look attractive. This is all about big money for developers that don't live here at the permanent expense of our community for a short-term $2 million prize for the city coffers that hardly will cover the impacts from the development. Why don't you just require the development to comply with the general plan like the rest of us must? It matters. Why don't we all work together to fight the SB 330 proposal? And I thank you very much, and I'll say again, you're between a rock and a hard place.
Thank you, and we did read that email. It was sent to us, yes.
Yeah, we have it, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan. Next,
Mr. Mayor, Howard Hayes, followed by Matt Bryant.
Mr. Hayes.
I just can't stay away. Anyway, there seemed to be some uncertainty last Tuesday about how those three houses could be classified as affordable to a very low-income household. Now, the formula is right there in our municipal code, 1734. What it is 30% of 50% of median household income for LA County, not just Sierra Madre. What that works out to is a little bit more than $16,000 a year. Now, even if those houses were gifted to somebody, to expect somebody to be able to pick up what they call the housing costs, taxes, insurance, utilities, on an income of $1,300 a month, plus feed their kids, it's just ridiculous on its face. There are so many other things about this proposal. There's, the municipal code specifies that affordable housing must be dispersed throughout the project. The developer has demanding this laundry list of concessions and waivers and incentives. And according to the clear reading of 330 and our code, it's just like, no way are they entitled to any of this. No, what New Urban West, it's clear. The strategy is to try to push this Meadows through with the threat that if we don't accept it, there's going to be an inevitable, far worse alternative. This is not inevitable. There's no way that this proposal could get to second base, believe me. So, and I think the only excuse that they would have for wanting to rush an election is to prevent the citizens from taking a look at it themselves and realizing there is no way that this proposal would ever be accepted. Now, last Tuesday, the motion before the council was to receive the proposal and to file it. We used to refer to the round file. I think that's where this belongs. So, no, the citizens are not going to fall for this. It is clear, it is transparent. I must say, last Tuesday, there was a big impassioned plea to see if we can find any way, any technicality at all in order to dismiss and to disqualify the voice of 1,200 citizens. If we would just take a look, a fraction of that scrutiny to what New Urban West is proposing and what they call inevitable. I know that there's this annoyance, this pesky annoyance known as a constituency, but this is serious stuff, and I really appreciate the chance to come and talk to you about it again. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Mayor, Matt Bryant, followed by Pat Alcorn.
Mr. Bryant?
Hello, City Council members. Matt Bryant, Edgeview Drive. I was not able to attend the last meeting, but I did watch most of it online. There seemed to be a lot of acrimony and blame going around, and I would suggest that everyone take a deep breath and not make a hasty decision that has pretty momentous consequences, including potentially a large expenditure of taxpayer money. I am not on the steering committee of Protect Sierra Madre, but I am still a member of the coalition along with hundreds of other Sierra Madre residents. I'm a big believer in communicating. If you get reasonable people around a table for a frank and civil discussion, perhaps a resolution to this crisis can be reached. And evidently that has already started. One or two members of the city council, perhaps, well, Jose already was in that meeting. Jose and Vincent from the city and a few members of the Protect Sierra Madre steering committee can get together and hopefully solve this problem. I'm always optimistic that a favorable conclusion can be reached if everyone is acting in good faith, but it can't be reached with threats and blaming and a 2-day deadline. I also want to dispel something else because I heard it brought up repeatedly at the last meeting, that this is all coming from just a small group of disgruntled residents. Let's look at that. Our coalition obtained over 1,300 signatures for the initiative. We obtained over 1,200 signatures for the referendum. But not everyone who signed the initiative signed the referendum. We suspect there could have been as many as 400 different people who signed the referendum but hadn't been reached to sign the initiative. So that means we had about 1,700 Sierra Madre residents who opposed this project. This city council shouldn't underestimate the chances of the referendum not overturning the city council's decision if it comes to a vote. That's simply not true. But what this does mean is that opening up a roundtable discussion first would be a good idea before spending $320,000 of the taxpayers' money. Why not wait a bit and give these discussions a chance to bear fruit? What do we have to lose if the referendum takes place in June rather than April? Well, we have a little bit to lose, evidently. Finally, I would like to know where Madre de la Rosa is in all this. As all this rancor and dissension was going on in the last meeting, I couldn't help but notice Father Mike Higgins, who I know, sitting in the audience, and Michael Cunningham, the head of the retreat center. They hired this developer. As I remember it, New Urban West is their development partner. I would assume they have some influence over the developer they hired. They are also a religious organization. I would expect them, of all people, to step in and say, let's stop and bring some peace and harmony back to Sierra Madre. I know Madre de la Rosa wants to get their money.
Mr. Bryan, if I could have you wrap it up. You
Yeah,
don't
but
have to
what
stop, just
cost?
wrap up your point. Thank you.
The developer will be long gone, but Madre de la Rosa is going to remain in the community. Sierra Madre has been a good neighbor to Madre de la Rosa since 1926. I think it's about time they stop sitting back and allowing all this carnage to happen and rein in their developer for the sake of the community. Can I just give you my
Thank you, Mr.
conclusion
Bryan.
real quick? Real quick.
I give you about
You don't
another
have too
20.
many speakers.
That's true.
Okay.
Finish your.
I will conclude by appealing to you not to make a hasty decision. Meet with members of the steering committee of Protect Sierra Madre. I hope that they would include me in that discussion. I'd love to be in on that discussion.
Thank you,
Let's
Mr.
see
Bryan.
what can be done to prevent this referendum from happening. I can't speak for them at the moment, but evidently they met with Jose.
Mr. Bryan, I think we understand the
Okay.
point. Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
It's in nobody's best interest to set this referendum for April. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan.
Mr. Mayor, Pat Alcorn, followed by D. Alcorn.
Ms. Alcorn.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I don't know, I can't say much more than what I did the other night. And I'm not here to speak for the developer, as I've been previously accused. I'm here to speak for the voters of Sierra Madre. Several citizens have emailed me or called me who have another meeting tonight and asked me to speak for them. By way of re-electing two of you who approved the the project. I've changed this a little bit. And another who did campaign for the project. And the voters soundly defeated Major HR. The citizens voted their confidence in you and in the project itself. We don't need another vote, but here we are. I asked the City Council to vote to have a special election. I was going to ask for April 11th, but maybe there could be another 30 days or so over that to overturn the referendum. And I think it's very important that the citizens do have their say, and it's not going to be for the referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alcorn. Mr. Alcorn.
I'm sorry, it must be getting tired of the Alcorns coming at the podium here. Anyway, I think that's rather ironic that the situation is stated by these people. Let's hurry up and get this done. I've been involved with this for 5 years. When they first started, we had a meeting with the people to try and get the feel of the public 5 years ago. And now we're rushing it. I mean, this has been discussed. There's been all kinds of things going on and say, okay, well now we need more time. I find that very, very interesting. I mean, how long do you need? Let's make another 5 years? I think that it's been clear. There's been a lot of discussions going on. The people have spoken several times. They've had their voice, and now they want more voice. They want more voice, more voice. I think it gets rather tiresome. I think it's rather ironic that one of the gentlemen made the asinine statement last meeting that they've lost faith in the council, and they just got reelected. I mean, that's just, to me, indicates the attitude of these people. No matter what happens, there's always something else. You were reelected, you were reconfirmed, and he said you lost all confidence in the city council. So I think that this has gone too far. All this whole process has been very divisive for the community. This is only going to make it worse. We're going to have another process going on, for people going about fighting about whether they should vote or no or yes on this. They voted on it already, and I think if that's what's required, and these people are so unreasonable that they won't accept what's gone on, I find that very unreasonable. They say, oh, well, we're being reasonable, we're being reasonable. And I think they're being very unreasonable. I think we ought to get it done, get it done. I just find this very asinine that's going on and very, very divisive, unnecessarily so. We've lost some good friends unnecessarily on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alcorn.
Mr. Mayor, the final speaker card is for Robert Jordan.
Mr. Jordan.
Hi again. Protección Madre is not negotiated in good faith in 2 years. Be careful, because they will ask for the impossible and blame you when you can't come through. And remember, every month the vote is delayed, it costs you $20,000 in lost tax revenue. Delaying the vote to 2024, as you've been asked to do, would cost you more than $400,000 for a special election. I'm not going to talk about the irony of supporting Measure HR and opposing mansionization, which it would allow mansions. And if New Urban West wanted a SB 330 project, there would be no negotiations. They would pull the specific plan, and they would submit, they'd just go with the new project. So I think they still want the Meadows specific plan, and that's what they're pushing towards. As far as the signatures that were collected, you still lost. It wasn't enough. And they have no platform for a new election. What are they going to do? Vote for us because we want 50 homes and no park? That's a losing battle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Any more speaker cards?
No, sir, there are no other speaker
How
cards.
about emails?
One email from Ed Miller, which was forwarded to the City Council and read by Deb Sheridan.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. All right. Bring it back to the council with discussion, comments. Councilmember Goss?
I don't really have a whole lot to say. I think that I think I'm willing to extend this somewhat to see if good faith can reign in some kind of an agreement. I'm happy to hear that there was a good meeting, a positive meeting. Both sides are expressing goodwill, good faith. That's a good thing. I don't really want to extend this indefinitely for many of the reasons that we're well aware of, costs primarily. But I think we're making progress, and I'd like to see us extend this a little bit.
Thank you. Councilmember Lowe?
I concur with Eugene Goss and say also that I do value and appreciate that parties came to the table and that you guys did great diligent work, and I agree with what everyone kind of is wanting to see happen is everyone come to consensus in some way so that we all can be comfortable with what ends up in our city.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Parkhurst.
So this is, this still is, causes me a lot of angst. A couple of things is, I feel we're stuck between a 42 home project and a 50 home project. Or a 40, let me put it another way. I think a more accurate way is to say a 42 home project and an unknown. Something, we have a known and an unknown. So that's on the one hand. It's also, it pains me to think about a cost of 325 or 400,000. Those are things that have made sleep hard at night. However, I am really encouraged, and actually, Mr. Bryan, I really appreciate your words tonight and about everyone taking a deep breath and working to develop some good faith. And I think this is an opportunity to develop good faith. I think we have seen with the folks that came in and spoke with the city manager that it was an attempt at good faith. Everything that I've seen or heard about it seemed like it was that all of our tempers have come down, and so I'm willing to let this play out for a little bit. I think it'd be worth to have that. The next step in my mind is have a discussion of kind of how long do we as a council think to do that. My personal feeling is let's not agendize a election tonight, or let's not select a date for the election tonight, but agendize it for our next council meeting. So that at that point, then we can give some time to have the conversation. So we'll have a week and a half about to have that conversation, see where it is, and then we can schedule an election for sometime in, I think it'll be May is the earliest we could do, according to the next meeting. That's where my head is tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember Parkhurst. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I agree with what the council members have said. I just want to sort of draw sort of a clear line sort of about what a decision to delay the election means. I mean, I want it to be clear that, and I made it very clear the other night that I want to spend $0 on an election. So, I think if there's a chance that that can still happen, that makes me in favor of extending the time frame. But there is a gamble. I mean, the trade-off for allowing the possibility of spending $0 on an election comes with a potential cost of actually spending more, and not just the money. It's also something that because it would be a standalone election, would be a greater burden on our staff as well. So it's not just a matter of the extra cost. So, I just want to make it clear that I hope that if that's the way we go tonight, that potential cost is factored into the minds of the proponents of the referendum, that this is not something we take lightly. I mean, this is not just let's kick the can down the road. We'll come back and decide it later. That has no cost. And so I hope that is taken as a gesture, which is, I think it's intended as more than just good faith, and we're doing the right thing. Like, we're actually putting things at risk to extend this out, and I hope that message is received, because I think that really does demonstrate kind of where we're at on this and how important it is to us to get to this consensual mutual agreement. I'll also say the other risk that I don't think we mentioned, there was a little bit of mention on Tuesday. There's also a time risk. I mean, I know that the developer has indicated that if the election is sometime this year or in the first part of this year, that the intention is to not really push forward too aggressively with the 330 project. But frankly, I worry too, because every day this goes on, the risk of the developer deciding to not honor that, which is just a statement, right? There's an argument that maybe there's a contractual argument under the development agreement, but it's just an argument. That every day that goes by, the possibility of the developer deciding to withdraw the Meadows project, which would make obviously the election moot, but would also then lead to the pursuit of the other project, which I think literally no one wants. So there's also a cost there too. So I would hope that that's part of the calculus and the, the commitment that we've made to these discussions, if this is the way we go. I hope that that's understood and appreciated, because that's not, I don't think we take that lightly.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, I think we're all of the same mind. Speaking for myself, yeah, as you stated, I don't want to spend anything. That's the goal. The question I posed to the city manager was, if we go forward with an April 11th date, what is the probability of the referendum being pulled? And I think that's 0. So if we go with April 11th, we are going to spend $325,000 approximately. We have the potential to spend, and it's an estimate, another $75,000 to $100,000. To me, I think about staff, I think about Lizzie's, I think about all the things we could do with that money. But options have a price, and we know that. If that's the option in order to potentially pay 0, I think it's worth it. Mr. Bryant, thank you for your wise words. I feel there needs to be a cooling off period. I feel some of the finger pointing and rhetoric within the town on social media needs to kind of calm down and cool down. Let's have some honest discussions around a table. Have smart people that understand what's at stake here. We're all stakeholders. If we can get that done, I feel that if we can negotiate in good faith, I'm comfortable with moving the election sometime until, I think it might be May. So I think that was a great recommendation by you, Councilmember Parkhurst. If at our next meeting we can set the date, it doesn't have to be 88 days the day after. We could still have a little bit of wiggle room, yet we have a date certain, and then we're giving a couple weeks until the next council meeting, plus a few more days, or maybe another week, to then see if we can resolve this amicably. So that's where I sit. Anything else? So I think we're of the same mind. Can we get a motion to continue this item to the next general meeting, if that's what we're looking at?
Is that what is needed, or do you just need direction? To continue to a date certain? Okay, I would move to continue this to a date certain of the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
Second.
Councilmember Parker, second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. We're at the end of the agenda. I know we had some new business at the last meeting, but still want to give the opportunity for any new future agenda items or new business.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I don't know the timing, Mr. City Manager, but I think it would be good when it's possible to get a report on the damage to the trail and kind of what the potential fallout from that is, and if there's, repairs that can be done, just to update. It doesn't have to, I don't know if the next meeting is too soon, but, just sometime when that's possible.
Thank you. Yeah. That's it. We've only had 2 days, so it's hard to.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned to the next meeting. Thank you.
No, I'm just slow tonight too.